Mr. Linnell, will you lead us in the pledge?
Everybody fix the flag, please. Follow me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'll say a quick prayer. I just want to thank God for this beautiful weather He's given us. Thank Him for allowing us to be healthy enough to attend this meeting. We ask for wisdom and we ask for understanding and good judgment. And we appreciate it, Lord. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I will announce that we do have a quorum. We have everyone here, all 7 of the directors. Audio video recorders are in use. And if you want to speak, please fill out the member forum sign-up sheet if you want to address the board. Thank you so much for doing that. First thing off the bat, we have employee recognition. Mr. Krigler, this is fantastic, by the way.
Yes, so Buddy Harville is celebrating 35 years with us. That's the longest tenured active employee, so we would like to thank him. He's not here tonight with us, but that is quite an accomplishment. So Buddy's a field operations lead with our water group. So
That's fantastic.
Yep.
You don't see that very much anymore, do
No,
you?
staying with the company that long is great.
Tenure is fantastic. Approval of minutes and transcripts. So everyone had a chance to read over the minutes and transcripts. January 11th. And Will, let me ask you this. Can we go ahead and approve all 3 of these transcripts at once? All right. So board members read through January 11th, January 16th, the annual meeting minutes and transcripts, and the January 23rd open board reorganization meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes and transcripts as submitted.
Second.
I got a second from
Daryl.
All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. Anybody want to vote to approve?
You just call.
All right. So let's vote on it. Who wants to? Let's vote to approve the minutes. I have a motion and a second.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Approval of memberships. January new memberships were 212. Canceled memberships were 217, and 1 transfer. Do I have a motion to approve memberships for January?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passed unanimously. All right, we start off with unfinished business. Procurement policy, Mr. Krigler.
Yes, thank you. So about 10 days ago, the directors were provided a draft of our proposed revisions to our procurement and purchasing policy. The impetus behind this was really 2 things. One, there was some recommendations from the forensic audit that highlighted some modifications to the purchasing policy, and secondly, there was some items in there that we knew we wanted to kind of clarify that were confusing to staff on what our approval authority was. So we think this revised version is much clearer. It establishes who can do what related to purchasing, and also clarifies the thresholds a lot better of who's allowed to spend what. So we think it's a nice improvement. Once again, if the directors have don't have any more comments, you can certainly vote on it tonight, or if you need more time to review or provide comments, I don't think there's any pressing issue to approve it tonight, but we do want to just move forward with the recommendations from the forensic audit.
So I do have one comment. I saw the ones that were put in, and you incorporated those, but under purchasing thresholds and requirements, purchases that exceed $2,500 but are equal to or less than $25,000. The second paragraph, if it's supposed to read that, it just doesn't make sense to me. The very first sentence, competitive solicitation or comparison of cost is required when and where possible, but not required. It just seems hodgepodge to me. What's wrong with just saying competitive solicitation or comparison of costs is required when and where possible?
It should be encouraged.
Yeah, I think that's a wording issue.
Encouraged when and where possible, but not required.
But that was it.
No, that was a good catch.
Jeff, I saw your response to mine. My only question is, where do you see where it talks about formal written bids where you would accept a phone bid in an emergency situation? Can you give me an example of where you think that would come into play? You're going to spend less than $50,000 for an emergency? And I see where you got in here that, you'll get documentation after the fact, but if I get a bid on the phone from a supplier, I'm assuming, give me where you see that bid.
I would envision it to be a situation where we have to call a contractor. For instance, if we have a big pipeline break and it's over and above what these guys can handle, we call a local contractor that we know would respond quickly. And if we got sewage running on the ground, we say, when can you get here? How much is it going to cost? He'd say, well, it's going to be about this, and we'd have to authorize them. Then I'd call David, and then his office could work it up, but we got to get that repair has to get moving. So that'd be a scenario where we tell a contractor, you got to come do this and go right now, go get the equipment and come on. And then, like I said, I'd call David, and his office would follow up with the documentation, and we present that at the next board meeting.
Okay.
So that's kind of the thought process.
No, all right.
Yeah. Everybody's had a chance to go over it, and any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve as written with Don's recommended change of, Donna, can you restate what that should have been?
Competitive solicitation where comparison of costs is encouraged when and where possible but not required.
With the term encourage versus,
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Matthews seconded. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. Go down to new business. Mr. Krigler,
Pictures.
CEO update.
Pictures in the ceiling. Looking forward to it. The first thing I wanted to mention is we're going to be providing a quarterly newsletter to our members. This was something we talked about at our board training. So what we're going to try to do is start with that in early April, and that would be for the quarter January, February, March. This is something that we'll provide a link on our bills, and members will be able to go to our website. We're not looking at adding anything into the bills. We're not looking at any additional printing costs. This is a newsletter that members will be able to access, like I said, on our website, and we'll apprise them of reminders or news or just any type of information we want to get out to our members. Monthly, we think, is probably too much. Quarterly is probably a pretty good frequency to reach out to them. There's different messages we want to get out based on the season, reminders about the member portal and things like that. So we think it's going to be very useful and a good tool to communicate with our members. So look for that. We'll probably provide a draft of the first one to the board just so you can get a feel for what it looks like. But look for that to, like I said, come out in early April. Emerald's going to kind of take the lead on the design of that, so I'm sure it'll look really nice. So. Secondly, the second thing I wanted to go over tonight wanted to give an update on our construction efforts out of the Eglin project. I've just got a couple pictures, and how do I do? Which one is this? One is the pointer. So I'm going to just going from top left, kind of clockwise. This was a picture taken in December, and you can see that was before any of the fine grading was done. It's just right after the clearing of the large trees, but you had a lot of the undergrowth still left. Moving clockwise here, this is rib number 2, and this is generally what they all kind of look like. They got the fine grading kind of done on the bottom. The berms are shaped, but as you can see, the liners aren't on the berms yet. But this gives you a good idea of what those are going to look like. This picture here shows the reclaimed water pipeline laid out. This is looking from the south, and this is probably rib number 1 right here. This one, like I said, was rib number 2 right here in this picture. And then this last picture here, this is up at the north part of the project looking south. This is would be the north end of where rib, I believe, 6 or 7 is going to be. So, you know, it's not the most exciting job site. It's pretty wide open. Like I said, most of it looks like this right here where the ribs are. The other thing I would add is the structures and pipe are not installed yet in the ribs. So they've done the earthwork, but as they put the pipe in, then they're going to go back and install it through the ribs and install the structures. You know, I think I mentioned it to Director Matthews, but anybody that wants to come out and see the progress, Clinton and I are more than happy to ride anybody out there. Certainly on a nice day, it's a nice little trip up there to check it out. So we go out there probably at least once every other week. At least I do. You go out there more frequently.
Yeah, I go there at least once or twice a week.
But yeah, certainly. So it's progressing well. The contractor has been pretty easy to work with and well ahead of schedule. So
They moved a lot of dirt in a hurry,
Yes,
yes.
that's what that looks like to me.
and they're laying pipe now.
Are they? Looks good.
Nice, yeah, it looks fantastic. All right, finance, review of November and December quarterly 2023 financials.
Yes, so this is the last 2 months of the year, including some year-end stuff, and I'll let Barbara cover those.
All right, if it's okay, we'll just cover for December. That's covers all of it for the year. Year to date, keep in mind this are unaudited numbers. Year to date, water and wastewater impact fees were up from the previous year, as well as the water and wastewater sales were up from the previous year. The total annual income was $1,234,809. The December did show a loss of $142,144, and the reason for that was the last pension contribution of $222,000. The overall budget expenses, they all came in under budget, which is great. And we had 2 trucks that had some repairs totaling $11,000. Other than that,
All right, very good.
not too bad.
Thank you. All right, everybody's had a chance to look over the financials? Do I have a motion to approve the November and December quarterly financial statements?
I'll make a motion to approve the financial statements as presented.
All right, thank you, Darrell.
Second.
Mr. Miller seconded. All in favor of approving the November and December quarterly financial statements, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
David, did you say Mr. Miller seconded it? Because it was Don.
Oh, is it Don? I'm sorry.
We both did.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard Mark, I didn't hear them.
Oh, okay. I heard Don in here.
All right. Okay, we go to Director's Update. Finance Committee updates. Mr. Lowe.
I have no update.
No updates to give. All right. Mr. Lyncher? Capital improvements?
Yeah, capital improvements, we had our meeting, it was the end of the year, but we were going over last year's numbers, which don't really help us much for this year. They were on track with them, but I think this year's going to change a lot of stuff with the Eglin project going, and looks like we're going to slow down on the project across the street for a little while we get some other things done.
All right.
So not a whole lot from capital improvements this month.
Budget O&M. Mr. Campbell.
Barbara covered a lot of it. Our expenses were under what we forecasted, and our income was over. But that's going to be good, because exactly what Darrell set us up for the expenses we're going to get with Eglin, a lot of that's going to be used up. So that's a good thing. But while we're on the budget, and I know we talked about it in our strategic planning, I'd like to make a motion that this board have staff and direct staff that we go to a pay band sometime this year before we start the budget process. Ask the staff to, what they gave us last year, they localize it and get rid of the New York cities and the big cities that screw it upwards, and come up with a plan to make sure that those vested employees don't lose out.
Second.
Right? So you were waiting for me to say that, weren't you, Darrell?
That's it.
So I'd like them to do that this year so we can consider that before we go into the budget process when we're talking about wages. So that's my motion.
And to clarify, when you say You said pay.
Pay bank. So if I'm a, I don't know, clerk or whatever, you know, there's a reasonable expectation that I'm gonna max out somewhere here in the local area, just because of who's here and no more education, no more certifications, you know, that comes a time where I've maxed out one. You know, every job has it, the government has it, there's a certain threshold that you're just not getting anymore. And I just think it would help us get away from some things that have happened in the past where we're kind of stuck with those sort of things.
So you're talking about maximum pay per position?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. You remember the pay band that they presented?
Minimum and, it's a
Yes,
range.
it's a minimum,
Yeah.
yes, it's a minimum.
I just wanted to clarify. I mean,
Yep.
I've never heard that term before, but
Yeah.
I totally understand.
I don't know
But
what
it-
the exact HR term was, but.
But it would be for the southeastern United States.
Correct, yeah, localized, yes, not,
Yeah.
right, so so if we need some water system person from local, then, you know, we can compete for them well, but we're not paying New York City prices. I don't mean to belittle that, but that's kind of, you know, local prices for local.
Okay.
What they took was a national AWA, and so just to look at that, so that was my motion, clarified, quantified.
And one more time to clarify, the motion was to look into,
To have the staff come up with a
okay,
reasonable pay down, localized before we start the budget process. So Jeff would have to tell us when that starts so we could vote on improving that. So when it comes time to the budget, with the consideration that those long-term employees don't get, we're taken into consideration is the right way to say it.
right, okay. So I have a motion and I have a second to ask the staff to come up with a regional pay band per position, correct?
Time for budgeting, that's what I have.
Before the budget process, okay.
Doable, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, we presented a draft of it this past go-around, it's just a matter of refining that and making it official.
Okay. All right, I have a motion, and I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes, motion passes.
Hey, David, could I ask a favor?
Sure.
Or make a suggestion? They probably all are unanimous, but I think in the past, the President said all in favor, any opposed or abstentions, just so it's on the record that there were none.
Gotcha. All right, where we leave off? Pension Committee, Mr. Linnell.
So we haven't met this year yet. We are planning to meet next month, March, coming up. So we'll have, if it's before our monthly meeting, we'll have something then.
Pretty sure I'm on that now, right?
I
Yeah,
believe you are.
So you're off the hook.
I think we're both.
Are we both on it? Okay.
All right. The Regional Reuse Project, that is me, and I don't have anything else to add above what Mr. Krigler had added, and we are going to discuss a little bit more when we get to item number 7. The Club at Hidden Creek Management Board, Mr. Linnell.
Yes, had a meeting last week. The management team out there along with Jeff and Emerald were there. Not to start, they were hoping for this year. Weather didn't really cooperate in January, so revenue was down a little bit. Expenses were also down a little bit, but overall, as you mentioned in there, net profit and loss was a little bit of a loss for the month. Very similar to 2022 as it turned out. So last year was basically break even on January, so we are planning the next few months, or they are planning the next few months are going to go up. One thing that also came out was there's going to be a focus on advertising and marketing the event room more. And they are preparing brochures. I think Emerald working with Danielle and or Trey to get brochures out and also to attend different shows around the area where it would be beneficial. And Jeff, you want to add anything to that, feel free.
Yeah, no, I would just say we do have a couple, good initiatives going. We're trying to utilize our Chamber of Commerce membership to its extent, which we're currently not really doing. So several ideas, and we hope to, reap the rewards of that here pretty soon with that space. The only thing I wanted to add about the meeting from last week at the club there is we did open bids on the golf cart lease, and we received one bid, and we had one bidder who claims he sent his bid in. We never got it. So given that we only had one bid and we had some questions with another bidder, we decided not to bring that tonight. We're going to go back and do some more homework, talk to the bidders, analyze the one bid we got. We're going to analyze that and see how it looks and if it makes sense. So we may re-advertise, we may go with what we got based on that feedback, but we're just doing some more analysis and we look for that recommendation in March. So we do have some time. That lease isn't up until November. End of November.
Okay, yeah. Seemed like we just did that.
All right. Let's see. Next, Fairpoint Regional Utility System Representative, Mr. Krigler.
Yes, so we have our meeting next week will be the first one with our two new representatives, so we're looking forward to that, our two Holly Navarre representatives, Joe and Daryl. We had a wellhead protection issue come up recently. Bill and I attended a zoning board meeting to speak about that. It was proposed gas station that was looking to put in underground storage tanks in the wellhead protection area. The zoning board did not approve that variance, so that was a successful outcome. And then it's also going before the special meeting of the county commissioners of this Thursday, so we'll attend that as well. And I don't have anything else on Fairpoint. It's been pretty quiet.
Where was it at, Jeff?
The
tank, the proposed?
The proposed site's on Highway 87.
It was on 87?
Yeah.
South of 10.
South of 10 on the east side of the road.
Okay.
And you will be there on Thursday at
Yes.
the Board of County Commissioners.
Yes.
Good.
How many from Fairpoint? I saw quite a few responding.
We should have several people.
Is this that old gas station, or is this?
No, it's a
something new?
completely new site.
I think it's at that old site you're talking about, if I'm thinking.
Yeah, there was like
used
a
to be
BP station over there that's been closed for 20 years. Yeah,
Right there on the right when you turn it. Yeah.
Don't drive up there a lot, but I don't remember seeing it from the east side.
I mean, that Tom Thumb that's there has got to be inside the zone, huh?
It is, but he's been there so long.
Yeah.
Unless it's built one later.
Yeah, I was just like, I was curious if they 90 in it.
Mr. Russell, you would like to speak on this issue?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Carmen Reynolds, 9621 Sunnybrook Drive, Navarre. I wanted to thank the water system for showing up and rebutting these impositions to the wellfield protection area, but there's another one Thursday night that I would like for you to be aware of. It's item number 6, number 2023-54-RSS. Johnny and Mary Holton on 25 acres, and they intend to rezone that from ag to residential and put between 66 and 120 septic tanks on that property off Hickory Hammock Road in the wellfield protection area. The concern there is their backfill position is to put a package plant in there. And what they're saying is that the developer will initially take care of it, but they will then turn it over to an HOA to maintain. Now, HOAs, as you well know, are not in the business of maintaining human waste. And I have it on reliable sources on my way here that the county is going to insist that it not be turned over to an HOA, despite what the Pensacola News Journal article this morning stated. So that is item number 6. We appreciate Fairpoint on behalf of the Watershed Protection Committee, which is citizen-led and science-based. We appreciate you all and Fairpoint being very aggressive in watching the protection of our water and our aquifer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reynolds. All right. Next one is Municipal Engineering Services Representative, Mr. Phillips.
We We had a board meeting recently, really to bring Don up to speed on what's going on, how we work, what's gonna happen this year. We didn't do any business. We'll be having another board meeting, here in the next week, 10 days, to do the end of the year approvals. Looks like Holland Bar is gonna get back about the same amount they got back last year from us, due to overtime and stuff like that. Municipal hired an employee, he starts tomorrow. We have numerous clients that have hired us to handle their lead and copper requirements that are due at the end of the year. So we have hired an employee who, at least for now, will be handling that on a full-time basis for us. And this employee, we're kind of hoping we might be able to work into an inspector position, perhaps after that, because of the work we've got going up. Dale and I have some experience with this gentleman. So anyway, we grew by one, at least for a little while. So.
Nice.
Mr. President, before we move on, can we ask Jeff, can we go back to the employee recognition? I think.
Yeah, Buddy's here.
Oh, absolutely.
No, you're right on time. You're right on time.
Feel good. So, once again, Buddy's celebrating 35 years with the company. We had a plaque for him, and we want to get a little photo op. So thanks for coming, Buddy. Thank you for your,
that's incredible,
thanks for your service.
Yeah, that's you, buddy.
My grandson went over to those built outside, so I had to fix all that.
As long as it wasn't in the pump truck.
No.
You're supposed to say you were fixing a leak or something.
I was.
Yeah.
Just your own leak. There you go.
Yeah, the flag would be good.
Going in the middle.
Quick 35, huh, buddy?
35.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
I got a smile there, buddy.
That's it, that's all we
Man, that's awesome.
I was smiling.
Good seeing all y'all. Very appreciating that.
All right, buddy.
Man, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Seeing you. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats. I told him you was out throwing a mullet net.
No, I wasn't. They brought my grandson a four-wheeler, and he decided he wanted to run all over the hose bibs at Mama's yard.
Yeah.
So I got done with that, and I said, I got to go.
Yeah.
Well, I sure do appreciate it. Thank y'all.
All right, buddy.
Thanks again.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. 35 years. All right, item number 4, CIP Parker's Landing, LS number 22 pump replacements. Mr. Krigler.
Yes, Parker's Landing is a subdivision off of Whispering Pines there on the east side of our system. We had a pump fail at this lift station. Whenever we have a pump fail and we go to get the replacement, we have our system engineer look at the lift station so we can look at the current conditions, see how conditions have changed in the basin. There's been a lot of development on the east side of our system. So with the one pump failed and the age of the pumps and the change in the hydraulic conditions based on the additional development over there, we want to go ahead and replace both pumps in the station. We got 2 quotes from 2 vendors that we typically get pumps from, and we're recommending buying the 2 hydromatic pumps from Moral Water for $45,700 approximately.
The second quote came in over 60.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Wow. So recommended that we purchase the pumps $45,675.89. The staff recommendation is to approve the 2 hydraulic pumps from Morrow Water Technologies. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve purchase of the pumps.
Mr. Matthews?
Be-
Have a second?
I'll second.
Before you vote, Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. Ms.
Yes.
Reynolds.
I would like to ask, there was significant damage at this location during the storm that we recently had. We lost a number of trees right there. We lost the fence, and about 70-foot pine trees went major directions right there where that lift station is. Could that have contributed to this at all? No?
I don't think so. All the moving parts are underground. The only parts above ground, the electrical panels, and Clinton, correct me if I'm wrong, they were not damaged by the storm.
Okay, I was just looking for a way to perhaps offset some of our expenses.
Right.
Thank
No,
you.
that's
Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds.
I have a question. The bids are for different pumps. The pump and process, the Morrow bid is for a 25 horsepower pump, and the pump and process bid is for a 40 horsepower pump. And in pump and process's quote, it says that based on the system head curve data and all, that it might work with a 30 horsepower motor. I'm just curious why there's a difference in the size of the motors on the pumps, and if the 30 or 40 horsepower motor would be needed in here, or if the 25 is adequate.
Well, let me start, and then I'll I would say that each brand of pump, each model has a specific hydraulic performance. So when you compare vendors, sometimes you can't compare apples to apples. If you say we need a pump that pumps a certain flow at a certain head, one vendor can provide something close, another can provide something close, but it may be at a different horsepower. It's just the nature of the pump. So that being said, we didn't go back to pump and process about their 30 horsepower, but I would note that the higher horsepower would require an electrical upgrade too, so that kind of skews the cost as well. So we definitely think the Morrow is a better value, but I don't know, Phil, you want to add anything to that?
The only two things I would add to that, one, Jeff said we didn't go back to pump the process. We did have a conversation with them regarding their curve. And what complicates things sometimes is that when we give a pump manufacturer a condition to meet, we actually give him a multitude of conditions to meet, because at the extreme, these lift stations pump into a system when a lot of other lift stations are on at the same time, and the head is much greater than the other condition extreme, which is that station's only on by itself and nothing else is on. In the case of the pump and process, like Jeff said, the hydraulics of the impellers and the speed at which they run and all of that, and when they start to cavitate comes into play, and he just couldn't meet actually he had trouble meeting the low end condition without it running off the curve. That's what we call it. So again, Jeff's explanation is pretty much dead on. It's just, we don't control their impellers. They try and design impellers to cover as wide a range as possible, and sometimes we have a range that they just can't cover with a certain horsepower. And in the case, some pump manufacturers, they'll jump from a 25 to a 40 horsepower and not have anything in between, like a 30-ish or a 35-ish, so it becomes a little extreme, but in essence, that's what the deal is.
So for the Morrow quote or bid, we didn't waive any requirements? Okay. Thanks.
It would be unusual for us to waive. You've got one of the most hardcore reviewers of pumps that exist.
Is that station just to the right on the off of Whispering Pines right there? That biggish station. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of flow.
Yeah.
It wasn't designed to take all those basics and add to it, so that's why the upgrade needs to happen.
Gotcha.
So what are we doing in the meantime?
We're running on one pump and
One
standby.
pump.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the two hydraulic pumps from Morrow Water Technologies, $45,675.89. And we got a second from Daryl, correct?
Yep.
All right, second, Daryl. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? There's no one opposed, motion passes.
All right.
I'm in the wrong business. Pump distributor.
There's less markup than you think for that. local
Yeah.
company.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, the next one, item number 5, CIP, Hollywood Water System, well number 3 pump replacement. Mr. Crick.
Yeah, so staff had noticed a decrease in the yield that we were getting from well 3. It was pumping a lot less than it should, a lot less than it normally would pump. So we had Griner come and pull the pump. They have to bring their rig over, pull the motor, take the well apart. They did that, and they also did a video inspection down the column, and they found out that we did need a new pump, and we also needed to replace a few sections of shaft. So that's what this item's for. We had, we do budget for this. We plan on working on roughly 1 to 2 wells a year. So we anticipated this. We'd hoped to do well number 1, but with well number 3 having this issue, we definitely have to proceed with this and get this thing back in operation before the high season hits. So this is one of our critical performing wells. So, Clinton, you want to add anything to that?
No, like so, we did budget for 1 well to be pulled and rehabbed. Unfortunately, it's not the well we wanted to pull and rehab, but we may have enough money left in the budget that we can still get the other one done.
Okay. Which one is well 3?
It's
Whispering
the one
Pines.
Second. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fix that one.
Right.
Well, there was something wrong with that, sorry. There was some maintenance earlier, that was just routine, where you pulled it and put it back in, right?
That's correct, yeah.
But then the last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, last year we did well number 4.
That's what I
Shannon
remember.
Round.
3, we did, what? 3?
Was it that long ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Seems like just yesterday, but.
Yeah.
All right. Good explanation there. Appreciate that. And again, these funds are in the budget under general well repairs. The fiscal impact is $38,748.85. Staff recommendation is we approve the replacement of the pump and line shafts from Griner Drilling Services for that amount at well number 3. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Matthews
I'll second it.
and Mr. Linnell, second. All in favor, say aye.
Discussion.
Discussion, I'm sorry.
You want to go first, Joe? Okay. Just for discussion purposes, I know we do a lot of work with Griner Drilling, but, did we put it out for bids anywhere else?
We did not.
Okay.
You think you got some influence, boy?
No, I'm just a
Give some of
question,
them
just a
a call.
question. I mean, I don't even know that anybody else would bid on it, so.
It's crazy right now. We can't get anyone to give prices on anything.
And to actually pull it is cheap, but it's, once you find the problem, that's where the money grabs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what you found last time we pulled the last well, it was a eye opener that we need to check the others. So we're just kind of following the
That's right.
protocol.
What would the timeline on this, something like this be?
Well, I mean, I could have approved it a week ago and they had the parts coming already, but
Okay.
we had to wait for the board meeting. So,
Gotcha.
I don't know how long. Pumps are more readily available now than they were. We were looking at a timeline of 3-4 months to get a pump, but they tell me that the supply chain's gotten a lot better for this type of material. So
Okay.
I'm hoping they put it back together in the next 3 weeks and we'll get it back online.
Appreciate that.
But to Darrell's point, procurement policy has a
Yes.
sole source, and we just write a justification of why, so after our time, it's in there for an audit to see why we didn't get 2 bids, right? So,
I mean, you can get the pump pulled, fairly reasonable, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. But it's all the stuff that you got replaced to go back in the hole. Once you got it pulled, what you gonna do? Tell them to put it back in, let's get somebody else to pull it?
It's like taking your car somewhere,
Yeah.
and they give you a quote, and you say, no, put it back together, I gotta take it somewhere else. It's very difficult to do
Yeah.
that. So,
Well, I don't like that you had to wait for the board meeting. Is there a better scenario for that?
Well, I think if this had been, May, we'd have a different conversation, but.
Yeah, we'd have done a ban,
Right.
board action without a meeting.
Yeah.
But we're at a time now that we're not
Little
utilizing
slow.
this well heavily,
Okay.
so
Okay.
we can get by.
All right.
That was my concern as well.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All right. Have a motion and a second to approve of the replacement of the pump and the line shafts from Grinder Drilling Services for $38,748.85. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No one opposed? It passes. Motion passes. Next on the agenda, independent rate study. Mr. Krigler.
Yes, so we are recommending that staff proceed with a solicitation for an independent rate study done by a rate consultant. So for the past several years, we've done we do the rate calculation in-house based on our expenses, our projections. And that process is working fine, but we haven't really looked at the impact fee and all the other member fees that we charge in a while. So we think it'd be beneficial to do this. And what they would do is they'd look at the rates, probably over a 5-year planning period. And they'd also look at like I said, the impact fees and all the member fees. And one of the great benefits is they'll perform a comparison with all the neighboring utilities of similar size across the board on all those fees, rates and fees. So really give us something we can hold up to our members and say, look, we're not just making this stuff up, and we're not, but this is what it looks like, this is what other people are charging. So we think it'll be a good document to have. The timeline on that, so we'd have to draft the document, advertise it, go through the selection process, and then award it. So that's going to be a several-month process, and we anticipate having that person on board or that consultant on board, maybe in time for when we start our budget process in the late summer, early fall, approximately.
Okay. Do we have anybody that we know that does that?
There's some firms that specialize in it.
Okay.
It's not your typical everyday firms that are here. It's mostly, it's kind of a special, really kind of niche thing.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. They guys go around the country and do these for water utilities, that type of entity.
You never ran across any personally then?
I have not met anybody. I know the names of some of them, and I know the work they've done, but I haven't.
I was just curious, yeah.
So it sounds like you hope to have somebody here before the budget process? But
yeah, so I think.
What about an answer?
Yeah, I think probably the draft report, yes, for the budgeting process, so we could implement their recommendations if needed.
Okay.
That's right.
Any idea what the cost is this?
Yeah, we just ballpark. We haven't talked to anybody yet, but for this level of effort, we think it might be like a $50,000 effort. That's without talking to anybody. That's just based on kind of what I've seen in other places. And once again, the scope. We can negotiate the scope to some degree.
So at one point, was it Phil or maybe it was even Daryl or Clinton that we talked about Florida Rural Water doing this? But they don't do it, they just subcontract it out to somebody to do it. Was it you, Phil, or somebody we talked about at one point?
Florida Rural Water Association does rate studies. They do hire them out, because we do them for them in certain cases. But that you're looking for a more in-depth rate study.
Okay. I knew we had talked about it, I just couldn't remember the whole.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they did a rate study for Holland R a couple of years ago, and I don't even know what they charged, if they charged anything.
I don't think they charge anything.
But it was a very minimal.
Yeah. They
deal.
call around
I don't
and-
think you
yeah.
would want to depend on, for this large utility, so.
My only discussion is when we do this, we just need to prepare the members because it may not be the answer they're expecting.
Oh, that's what I expect.
We're probably lower than what we should be, but that's just my discussion point.
Yeah, and I think we would be lower. I hope we're lower, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to raise rates. It
Right.
just means that we've got
Agreed.
a document that says, hey, your rates should be this based on the market.
Well, I also think that once they get it done, part of the goal would be to have some simple formula that they would say, you know, here are the plug-in numbers into a formula such that you could kind of do that yourself in the future a little bit. You get too far down the road, the factors might change, but I think that's kind of a result you're looking for too.
Yep.
Yeah, every step along this process has to be voted on by the board, so this is just to solicitate an independent rate study, see how much it would cost and see if we want to go forward with it, but I happen to agree that since we haven't revisited this in at least a decade, probably more than that, it's probably a good time to do that. Anybody else want to discuss here at the board before we go to?
I'm just wondering, you know, 50,000 is kind of a big number for something like this. Is any option for trying to do this in-house?
Independence.
It won't be independent.
That's
Yeah,
right.
No, I know.
That's the
I
problem
know.
with me doing it is, am I really independent? Or am I
Right.
really influenced by Clinton and Jeff and the 7 of you?
Mm-hmm.
So,
That, and we haven't gotten any bids back yet, so we don't know if 50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is 10,000 or 50,000 is 100,000.
But
Let's get some bids in and see
I
what.
do think Jeff's in the ballpark based
Yeah.
on some stuff that's been done in Northwest Florida, so I think that's kind of what you're looking at, but I think you're wanting someone to tell you that, you know, the unbiased truth that no one's gonna say, well, you might be biased by staff or by the board or by the community.
It's perception.
Because I
Yes.
think there will be some things in there that might not necessarily cause you to change rates overnight, but probably more so on the impact fee and with regard to long-range planning and capital improvements and, you know, saving for those type of long-term liabilities. I think you want that to come from someone independent, so.
We're thinking the same thing, Phil, because that was my only other input was, are we just gonna do water and sewer or impact fees as well, when you said scope, so, yeah, I think you touched those few.
I think the impact fees are probably more important at this
I do
point than the
too.
water and sewer.
I think that's the one.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would voice that opinion too. It's the impact fees, and you can consider this as part of your risk management, so that you have a document that gives you a baseline as you're moving forward. You've done this past year, your commercial impact fee review, and that policy was in place, and we went through and resolved all that. This is a good risk management document.
Okay. Nice. I know, yeah. I just want to make sure the board is, anybody else on the board want to discuss? All right, we'll recognize Mr. Cosby.
Kurt Cosby, Holly by the Sea. Y'all answered a lot of the questions. Is there something that we don't know that is pushing this? Because, you know, 50K on somebody coming in here and looking at the stuff y'all already look at is quite a bit of money. But is there something that we don't know that is pushing this along?
It was brought in a discussion that we had because it had been so long since we've had any kind of independent study on this. No one can remember the last time we've done it. And you know, we're talking about the cost to the members and trying to keep the members' costs as low as possible. Well, if our impact fees are way off, then that means that the builders and a lot of these people constructing these huge commercial complexes and subdivisions, they may not be paying their fair share. So if that's the case, and we can get those folks to pay more of their share, then we don't have to put the burden on the water customers and the sewage customers that are existing.
Do you guys, can y'all go back in the records? You said it's been at least a decade. Do y'all know who did the last one? And nope, there's no records of
It might have
that.
gone up in the fire. I'm not sure.
The answer is, except for Florida Rural Water doing very short period capture analysis, there has not been a rate study done for Holland and Mark in a very, very long time.
Okay.
So
Well, I'll just say this, and I'll leave the podium. 50K is a little bit much, I think. It depends, well, I guess it depends on the scope that you want them to look at. just
That's
like
what
you
I
did the
think.
Forensic audit, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm interested to see the amount as well.
Yeah.
That's why I'd like to go ahead and, I agree that we should go ahead and get an independent rate study started, see where we come in at. But, all right, the staff recommends that we approve to proceed with solicitation of an independent rate study. Do I have a motion?
Second.
All right. I've got Daryl and Mike, seconded. And all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No one's opposed, motion passes. All right, the Santa Rosa Reuse Project, Eglin Phase 1A, change order number 1, Mr. Krigler.
Yes, so we're looking at moving 470 linear feet of reclaimed water pipeline that's currently proposed on FPL property, moving that roughly 20, 30 feet north onto Eglin property. So this is work that's currently in Phase 1B, which has not been advertised yet. So this is moving a section of work from Phase 1B to Phase 1A. So it accomplishes really two things for us. It removes a proposed piece off of FPL property, who we're still negotiating with, and it also allows the future contractor for Phase 1B to not have to work on Eglin. So this would put all the Eglin work on the current 1A contract with L&K. They've got all the permits. They've done all the correspondence and approvals they need from Eglin. So we think this makes sense for a lot of reasons. This is not, it's additional money for L&K, but it's not additional to the project. It's an amount that we would have to spend in Phase 1B. So it's really just moving a piece of work from 1B to 1A. Now this is this is contingent on Eglin's real estate committee approving this change. They will be considering that, I believe, next week.
Okay.
So this approval would be contingent upon that.
All right, so just to clarify, basically, there's a section of 470 feet of pipe that we had originally engineered to go through the FPL property.
And it's the east-west section along their north property line.
Right.
And it's moving it on the other side of the property line.
We're just moving it up into the Eglin property,
Correct.
which, like he says, will help us with that. FPL has been, they've asked a lot of money for their property. And so this would help us with that as far as that goes. It would help us with that. Plus, this is already on Eglin, so the contractor that's already got this first part of the project can go ahead. He's working with Eglin on all the permits and so forth, so it would make it seamless for him. Physical impact is $106,310, and again, that's not extra money. That's money that's going from 1B part of 1B to 1A now, correct? All right.
Yes.
Which makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions on the board?
I guess the only question I have is, it's two different contractors, right, between 1A and 1B?
That's correct.
Well, we
Right.
assume,
But the price
Well,
of the pipe,
yeah.
but the price of the pipe is exactly the same.
well, we don't
Oh,
know.
we haven't
No,
bid
we don't know
yet.
1B.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't know the price.
I told Jeff that I was ready to just, figure out the FPL situation. This makes a lot of sense to me, with an open contract.
Again, if Eglin will.
Yeah.
approve this
If they'll approve it.
Yeah,
correct.
we're just, yeah.
We're still going to need an FPL easement, just not on this
A
section.
smaller,
That's
that's
correct.
correct.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense in my eyes.
Much smaller footprint.
Okay. So the staff recommendation is to approve change order number 1 for L&K in the amount of $106,310, subject to final approval from Eglin Air Force Base. Do I have a motion
So
to approve?
I move
Second.
that we approve the change order number 1 for L&K in the amount of $106,310, subject to final approval.
You'll know.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Matthews, second it.
I got some more questions. So have we talked, Jacobs has prepped the line with Eglin? Have they any discussions at all about the possibility of doing this? I mean,
Yes, yes, they've had a verbal discussion in the submittal to that, whatever this committee is that it's going to, they described in a letter form, and they may have given them a hand drawing too. There was no formal drawing that existed at the time. We had to have the material ready for the committee.
Napkin.
This kind of came about at the same time. So yes, Eglin has an idea that we want to do this. Reason they might not do this is, again, it's a change.
Don't even say it.
What gets approved at this meeting that's going to happen is eventually going to turn into an easement document, a more formal document. There may be some hesitation to move away from what was described and included in the environmental work to this. We just don't know, but they didn't indicate that to us.
I was going to say, because it's not going to take any more environmental, right? That's already been completed even for, would that impact this?
This little segment of route is different than what was approved in the environmental, but the environmental wasn't, Joe, it wasn't really route-based. It was area-based.
Area-based.
So in our opinion, it wouldn't change anything.
So Eglin seemed amenable is what I'm getting. There's no hard no.
They did not say no.
Okay.
They took the information and.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it has support at the staff level, it just needs this committee's approval, is another way of saying it.
And they noted that it ran along an existing road. So
It's already clear.
They're not, and the other issue, just to add to Will, because I thought you were going there, is we were already being issued a portion of our entrance easement across right-of-way that somebody else held. This, again, isn't a new imposition on that. It's in that same right-of-way that FPL, Gulf Power originally held and FPL holds now. So that shouldn't be an issue either.
Any more questions from the board?
Yeah, given, I at least have a concern by how fast the Air Force, you keep saying Eglin, but it's the Air Force is going to approve this at some level, whether it's Eglin or not, but how long do we have, if we say we want to do this, how long do we have before not doing it impacts somebody? Do we got a couple of years?
No,
If this was going to be part of one
I think the
meeting?
answer to your question, Don, is we're going to know as soon as this meeting occurs in the next week or 10 days in the aftermath of that. I think they're going to issue a right of entry, which will allow us to go to construction on one option or the other. And I think it will be decided then as to what we can and cannot do. It will not go beyond that. They'll give us an answer right then and there. So it won't be a, hey, we're going to give you this, but we need to ponder further this change. I don't think that's the way it's going to work.
Yeah.
Want a bit of Coke?
Give
No history?
Good thoughts.
Nothing.
All of it.
Not even a dollar.
No.
Based on how long it took to get the lease signed by the Air Force, my concern would be changing the easement and getting that signed. Is that going to be a,
This is a
a
different
timeline.
process, Mark, and I'll give you, for instance, of what they're doing. I've worked out on the Air Force property before for a third party that wanted to build like a hangar out there for maintenance of Air Force aircraft. And they issue a lease to that company for a footpad for the building that they're gonna build to maintain those aircraft. But they don't issue inside the lease the ability to get from the right-of-way, the established right-of-way on Eglin to that building. Because no one knows exactly what's going to be required to get from that road or some other place to that building. For instance, steam runs everywhere out there. You might need steam to come from the building to the north, not along the road. You might need telecom to come off a pedestal that sits up here and go to the building, and you might need power to come someplace different. So after they issue that lease and the design is done, they go through this right of entry process. That right of entry process gives you the ability to build those facilities on non-leased property on an interim basis until a separate easement is established to build those utilities. I think that's the best way to describe what they're doing. So, anyway, again, what we anticipate is when this meeting is over and they generate whatever document, it is going to give us the right to start digging out there before there is any type of separate document prepared for the long-term easement, which they've told us they would want to run concurrent with the lease. But they're not describing it as a modification of the lease. Separate document.
Okay.
Again, I wouldn't bet that code or cup of coffee that Don's talking about, but at least I have seen this process work before, so assuming that's really what they're talking about, that's what we anticipate. So.
Yeah, tap, tap. Knock on wood. All right, we do have a motion, and we have a second to approve change order number 1 for LNK in the amount of $106,310, subject to final approval by Eglin Air Force Base. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No one's opposed. Motion passes. All right, we get down to engineering.
Just a couple of things. One, if you looked at the I&I, you see the I&I went up significantly in December, the reporting month. We did obviously have some rain, but that order of magnitude is a little bit disappointing. Mark hasn't given me exactly where, after something like that happens, we kind of go back and look at some of the run times on lift stations.
Mm-hmm.
He knows a couple areas where we had surface overflow into the system. So he hasn't come back and given us kind of the full report, but I know some of the latest work that was given to PCC under the I&I contract addressed some of what we saw, but you did see that I&I again spiked after a relatively dry period. We think most of it wasn't infiltration, but inflow into the system itself through some issues that we still have that we haven't addressed. So there's that. The water loss in the, and I'll steal Clinton's thunder here. The document that you have, it doesn't really indicate the water loss is that bad, but we have talked about the fact that the water loss has crept up a little bit. Well, it kind of came to a head in the last few weeks when we looked at January, and I won't say what I think I remember the water loss was going to be reported as, but they have since discovered that we have some master metering issues in a couple of locations that probably contributed to that. I think both on the Hollywood side and the Fairpoint side, correct, Clinton?
Yes.
Say yes. So that might also, and again, we had a point of receiving from Fairpoint that even when we shut the valve, it indicated we were still receiving water, which will of course drive the water loss up. And I can't remember which well she was concerned about. 3 before it went down, I think, maybe.
I'm talking about well 1.
Yeah, well, 1 and 3 also, but then tank 6 is the connection point you're talking about.
So anyway, they discussed, and I actually forgot Donna was sitting down there.
No.
She's really the person that deals with this. But they have discovered some issues that we were having that might radically change the water loss in the months to come. So we'll see how that works its way out.
Let's hope
Bill
so.
used to be the one that always harped on the water loss, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay.
But we can tell him we think we found the culprit of it creeping every month.
I'll have a couple good months and all of a sudden it's,
Yeah, the last time I remember, you had got it sweet, and we were happy.
yeah.
And now it's back, huh? Okay.
That's it, unless anybody has
Okay.
any questions.
I do have one question for Phil. So on your commercial development project list, not specific, but just a process. So I think there's at least one on here that had an unauthorized connection in the past. I'm going to assume that before we move forward on approving any of these, that is run through finance and all those are corrected?
I don't-
And I'm not looking for an answer now, but Jeff, if you can just kind of run that to ground. and-
Yeah, I will go back to the person who has reviewing commercial development, about as hardcore as you can get on those kind of guys.
Check.
So they ain't gonna let nothing slide.
Okay.
But I'm not familiar with.
I'll go direct with Jack.
And I don't wanna mention anything.
Nope, that's why he said in general, so that's all I had for him.
All right, let's get to the next item is member forum. Anyone want to, any input tonight? We'll recognize Ms. Reynolds.
Carmen Reynolds, Navarre. I have some easy questions for all you brilliant directors up there. Okay,
I'm not sure there are any
item
brilliant.
4, Parker's Landing lift station. Could you all, once you get the parts, tell me what your estimated time of completion is so that I can inform the residents over there?
I don't have that one in my head, Carmen, but we can let you know tomorrow.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you. Just a couple
I
more.
don't have it in my head as being like way out in the future, so I don't think it's one of those problem deliveries, but let us find out.
Okay, thank you very much. Under Director's update, Director Lynchard, you talked about standing down temporarily the project across the street. You motioned across the street. Could you tell us what that is, please?
So we're gonna build a new building across the street.
Where the storage?
maintenance- Yeah, the
Maintenance and
building.
storage.
And I think we've kind of put that one on hold for the time being.
Okay.
The budget.
All right, that's probably really smart. Okay, down to the club at Hidden Creek. This is a hard one. Are you all canceling currently projected events over there while you plan on beefing up the marketing and stuff?
Oh, no, the renovation's done. It's complete. It was completed last fall, and she's booking events. This is just additional marketing in addition to what they've been doing. It's just
Okay,
getting the word out more.
okay.
Yeah.
She's already, what, 12 weddings scheduled
A lot of
already for
weddings
this year?
scheduled for 2020.
10 or 12?
Yeah.
So it was just a rumor that the Board of Realtors can no longer have their annual banquet there or luncheons there. That's just not, that's not fact, correct?
They decided themselves
They did?
not
They
to do
decided.
it, yeah. It wasn't anything that we did,
Oh, wow.
or the water system did.
I thought they liked being over there. Is there any chance of expanding that venue at all? I know that some folks are looking at venues that can accommodate more than 100 people, but you guys don't have any leverage with that currently, right?
Yeah, it'd be difficult to expand that building and justify it at this point, I believe. So we kind of got to work with the square footage we got, which is what we've done.
Yeah, I know that one of the nonprofits I work with and for, we just couldn't get enough room there to have a great event, and we're sorry about that. Last but not least, the independent rate study for risk management. Could you all clarify, I know that impact fees are a major part of our revenue, but you all extended a 50% decrease to Elevate Navarre. Could you just explain that for those of us that don't understand how and why that was done?
That was when we're getting this, the property, the site.
Yeah, we get
for the
something in
lift
return
station
for
and
that,
the
but-
Elevated, storage tank.
Oh, so you could put the
We'll end
tank
up-
there and you
It was
trade it?
purchase of-
We
Okay.
ended up, that's a spot that staff has wanted for 20 years, but never could get it. We've got a site on Highway 87 that we had planned for using for that, but the site down there by Elevate Navarre, will end up saving us over 7 figures.
And when are you all
Well over
putting
$1
the
million.
tank there?
It looks like
Going
they
up now.
started.
It's there
Yeah,
now.
I see.
Well, it
Okay.
started, it
Well, they're
started.
working on it now, Carmen.
Yeah.
They just finished the geotechnical, detailed geotech test files, so
You see the
it's
rig.
under contract. You'll probably start seeing steel go up, I would guess sometime in May.
Alrighty, great. Thank you all so much.
And it's going to be our biggest tank, right?
It will be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. I see there's nothing left on the agenda.
Adjourn.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Yep. Do that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.